Masterson, who is from That 70s Show, which I'm just gonna bring it up so that way we can look and see who this guy is really quick before we watch the movie or before we watch some videos. So Danny Masterson, he's the guy from That 70s Show. This one right here. He was a part of Scientology. Here, it's this guy. He was a part of Scientology. This is pretty much what he looks like now. I think he still is, but he's got some allegations, essay allegations, and he's about 2 weeks into his case. It's actually kind of shocking that I haven't heard about it, but it goes to show, I'm pretty sure, how much the Scientology community is probably trying to cover it up. So this is like the only way that we can see it. It's like law and crime YouTube website, because the mainstream media probably isn't going to talk about it because of, they try to cover up for Scientology. It's really disgusting and sickening. So let's start watching the beginning. So this is the story about what's going on, and then we'll read Leah's tweets and what she said, and then we'll watch week 1 and then week 2 of the case itself, and then we'll come to a decision for ourselves. While my fucking cat literally runs amok. Come on, can't you get it out of your system at another point in time? Bruh. You can't even see this motherfucker. He's like right there. He is out of hand. And he's gone. Jesus Christ, dude. Ah! Did you just see him go by right now? He's knucking futz. Miss Izzy right here, mama, she's like, fuck that kid. Huh, Izzy? Fuck them babies. Izzy! You said fuck them kids, huh? That's right. He's just on the ground running amok, and she's just up here like, I don't want nothing to do with it. Oh, this is great. Okay, let's get into this.
I would never tell when I was in a non-Scientologist my real problems. It would be kind of bad for the church to ever appear human. To a non-Scientologist. It would be setting a bad example. Like, it would actually be considered like a transgression.
That was Leah Remini, the actress, on Joe Rogan's podcast, talking about the Church of Scientology. I'm Anjanette Levy, and welcome back to Sidebar here on Law and Crime. Leah Remini has put out a long tweet thread. It has 36 points. She's never been shy about her criticism of the Church of Scientology. She left the church back in 2013, and she has basically said that it is evil, the entire church. She even had a television show on A&E for 3 seasons that talked about the Church of Scientology. And now, in the middle of Danny Masterson's sexual assault trial in Los Angeles, Remini has taken to Twitter and Instagram with a 36-point tweet thread about the trial and the Church of Scientology, and why she believes that the trial needs to be getting more attention. And she believes that the Church of Scientology and the attorney, Philip Cohen, for Danny Masterson are trying to basically scrub Scientology from the trial itself. So joining us to talk about this is someone who's covered the Church of Scientology for many years and knows Leah Remini, Tony Ortega. Tony of the Underground Bunker, welcome back to Sidebar. Thanks for coming on.
Anjanette, thanks for having me.
Tony, you broke the news, you told me, of Leah leaving the church back in 2013. Tell us a little bit about that first.
Right. July 8th, 2013, I broke the news that she had left Scientology. And in that first story, I mentioned the background about how she had been at Tom Cruise's wedding and it dared to ask about the leader's missing wife. All the stuff that later showed up in her book was really in that first story. And so I know her pretty well. I was on her. I made a couple of
I mean, if you've ever really followed Leah Remini, you definitely know the story behind all of that. So
says that the Church of Scientology is a multi-billion-dollar cult that will cover up the sex crimes of its members. What do you think about her making that claim?
Well, I think it's something she said before, and it's something that she showed on her series, and it's something that's coming out in the testimony in this trial. So that we're seeing that these women are alleging that this organization controlled everything that they were doing and saying, and preventing them from going to the police. And we're giving Danny Masterson protection because he was what's known as an upstat celebrity, somebody that brings them good publicity.
And you said that this was actually brought up on Wednesday morning by the defense in Masterson's trial, this tweet thread.
Right. So this morning started out before the jury came into the courtroom. Judge Olmedo said that the defense, once again, wanted to make a point about something. And defense attorney Karen Goldstein then described the tweets and was saying how prejudicial this was and this was going to prevent a fair trial. But then Judge Olmedo and Deputy DA Reinhold Mueller responded that they hadn't seen it. They're not following Leah Remini. They've asked the jurors not to pay attention to social media. And although Judge Olmedo said that although some jurors had mentioned seeing her show, she didn't really think any of them were following Leah on social media. So she said, you can put that on the record, but that's all she was going to do. And Karen Goldstein said, thank you, Your Honor.
Well, let's look at the tweet number 1 from the tweet storm. It says, did you know that
All right,
if you
so
are
we're gonna read the rest of them, like all of them, but I do want to at least go over the ones that they're going over here. I feel like I'm watching these videos a little too long, and I don't want to get copyright strike.
Scientologist, you are forbidden from contacting law enforcement when another Scientologist has committed a crime against you. If you do, you will be declared a suppressive person and lose your family, friends, and livelihood overnight. Your thoughts on that particular claim, Tony?
Yeah, that's been testified to several times in this trial. And what's interesting is this also came up at the preliminary hearing. These women are saying that it's in the Scientology rules. You can't turn in another Scientologist. And when they were put on the spot about this last year by Danny Masterson's defense attorney, Tom Mesereau, at that time, they actually got out the ethics book that Scientology uses, and it says it right there in black and white, Anjanette. You are not to turn in another Scientologist to civil authorities, which obviously includes the police. So what's interesting is that if you look at the other media that's coming out this last couple of weeks, the Church of Scientology has said again and again to reporters, we don't have that rule. We don't have that rule. But I mean, I can literally pull out the book and show it to you. And all these Scientologists under oath, under penalty of perjury, have said this is what they were taught. So Scientology can say that all they want, but it's literally in their ethics book that you cannot turn in a fellow Scientologist to civil authorities.
What I don't understand is, and maybe I don't want to take the train too far off the tracks here, but it sounds like if this is all true, if it's true, that there's some type of conspiracy going on.
You want to talk about somebody looking like somebody? Oh my God, I just realized. Check this out. And then I'm going to pull this up. Is it Jenna in The Office? Yeah. Dude. Really quick, just like because I'm stoned and this is kind of interesting. Tell me that this girl right here does not look like that. Oh my gosh. She looks like Jenna from The Office. That's crazy. They look so much alike. That's so nuts. Can't tell me that doesn't look like her. Oh my God. Janine Garofalo. Hold on. Who's that? Janine Garofalo. Oh. No way. She's like that. I mean, she kind of does, but like she used to be that, like back in the 90s at least, she was that cool, nerdy gothic girl that looked like Daria. Like that's how I remember her. Or like that. Like the gothic nerd look. No, I think she looks more like Jenna from The Office. Yeah. That's who she looks like. Oh, that's so great. Okay. Sidetracked. Sorry. Like what Obama said. Squirrel. I can't believe he stole that and ruined it. Never be able to say that shit again because Obama. Thanks, Obama.
If it's true that there's some type of conspiracy going on here, and I don't understand why the Church of Scientology and its practices aren't being investigated by the DA or the police in LA.
Well, Anjanette, you just hit right on it. And that is, we've known about these practices for decades. The government has known about these practices for decades, that if you run afoul of Scientology's rules, you will be called a suppressive person, which is basically their form of excommunication. But even worse than that, all other Scientologists will be forced to cut off contact with you. This is what splits families apart, what splits parents from children, brothers from sisters. This is what Scientology's been doing, and it's documented in court records going back 50 years. So, it comes out, Leah Remini tweets about it, and I'm asked, is that true? And I'm saying, this has been so well documented for so long. It's a fact. And I even have a list at my website of people and how long it's been since they've seen their mother or their brother or their father or their sister, because Scientology has made those families split up.
Let's go to point number 3, where Leah Remini tweets, first, let me explain how Scientologists are controlled. Scientology's policies, written by founder L. Ron Hubbard, can never be altered and must be interpreted literally, allowing this criminal org to control members and insulate itself from bad PR. So this is all about PR, according to Leah Remini.
Absolutely. It's about control. L. Ron Hubbard was the founder of Scientology. He ran it from 1950 until his death in 1986. They literally call him source, meaning everything comes from him. And he was a former science fiction writer. He had written millions of words of policies governing everything that a Scientologist does.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys never heard about the story of L. Ron Hubbard. He was actually a science fiction writer about like aliens and stuff like that. And then he turned it into a cult, into where he really believed that it was real. And that's what Scientology is now, is this like alien multi-life kind of cult thing. So they do got banked though, but that's because they have a lot of celebrities, and just to even get into it, man, they make you go fucking broke. There's these couple of guys a couple of years ago did this like secret undercover thing in Scientology out here in Los Angeles. A couple of kids, like 20, 22, 23-year-olds, and they secretly filmed everything. They had like little spy cameras like in their shirts or in their glasses, things like that. And it just shows how much money they want from you to do anything in there, and how important it is to, level up and do all these things. Even like weird stuff like saunas, like they make you sit in a sauna for like multiple hours to release the evil energy and the evil, disgusting stuff out of your body. And they make you pay for that. And it's like super necessary that you have to do it. So that's how they get you. And they got banked because of that. And they'll just, whatever money you have, they'll take. And then if you don't pay it all off, they'll make you owe it later when you do start making money. Like they expect you to become super famous or super, rich because you are a Scientologist. It's so crazy. Yeah, they make way too much money. And it's untaxed too, because they're a recognized religion. So untaxed money. Such bullshit. Like other cults, man, they don't get away with this kind of stuff, but because they're rich and famous, there's rich and famous people in there, they get away with it. Yeah, like Mormons the same way. Yep.
And they consider his words so sacrosanct that now that he's died, they can't change anything. And so they keep doing the same things over and over and over. And like Leah points out, that's unalterable. So if somebody comes to tell you what a family being split up in the 70s or a family being split up in the 80s, they're still doing it today because they're following the same rules that they can't change.
And I actually read a story with Danny Masterson, I believe his stepfather, in the LA Times, where he talked about basically being shunned by his family after he said some things about the church.
Right, Joe Rage. And I've interviewed him myself, and I actually said this early on in the trial, that one of the most Scientological things on display in the courtroom every day is that Danny's younger siblings, Alana Masterson and Jordan Masterson, who are both actors, are sitting in the family section every day. And they are just like a symbol of what Scientology is about. Their father, their biological father, Joe Rage, who's Danny's stepfather, ran afoul of Scientology for various reasons 17 years ago. He was kicked out, and those children of his have completely cut him out of their lives as Scientology instructs them. So there they are, sitting there in the courtroom, a symbol for how Scientology splits families apart.
And Leah Remini
Yep,
calls these
so true. And that's the way to control people, is to separate. That's the first part of, GROOMING, is to separate and isolate you from everybody that doesn't agree with you or go with you or believe what you believe. And then you have to isolate yourself from them. That's part of it. So it's Cult 101, baby. All right, I gotta go get some more coffee.
women credible who've accused Danny Masterson of rape. She said that they reported their rapes to Scientology and to the top ethics officials in Scientology and a few trusted friends. So she's saying these claims are corroborated. And that's now we move to tweet point number 32, where Remini says Scientology has obstructed justice in covering up Danny's crimes, and his case is not the only time they've done this. Scientology has covered up at least hundreds of similar crimes involving sexual violence. Tony, this goes to my question again. If they're part of a cover up, a conspiracy, where's the criminal investigation?
I mean, that's always the biggest question. Mike Rinder's got a new book out about his time in Scientology and the things he saw, and that he went to the FBI, and the FBI has actually started investigations. Some involved charges, some didn't. It's always a question: when is the federal government going to take these things seriously and investigate what Scientology is doing? And I think, Scientology is very good at intimidating people. And yes, that includes law enforcement. As Mike Rinder once explained to me, a manager.
Kelly, good to see you. Happy Friday.
The Department of Justice has got to make a decision about an investigation of Scientology. Are they ready for that to be the rest of their career? Because that's what it's going to be. Years and years of vicious fights in courts. And I think the government sometimes just doesn't have the stomach for it.
Well, if sexual assaults are being covered up with their knowledge and there's evidence to support that, as we've seen with the Catholic Church, you can't commit crimes in the name of religion. So these are all claims and allegations at this point. We will see what comes of this. Tony Ortega, thanks so much for being with us today, as always.
Did you see her earpiece fall out? Sorry. I don't know why I thought that was funny, but I thought it was funny. Her fucking earpiece just falls out at the end. That's great. So the tweet, man, it's pretty freaking long. I'm going to have to tell you this now, but it is very, very interesting. So Leah came out with these bunches of tweets about Scientology and this whole case with Danny. And so we'll read all this and then we'll watch about Danny's case, his week 1 and week 2. So our first one, did you know that if you're a Scientologist, you're forbidden from contacting law enforcement when another Scientologist has committed a crime against you? You're only allowed to go to them. If you do, you will be declared a suppressive person and lose your family, friends, and livelihood overnight. They'll kick you out and not let you talk to everybody that's in there if you do go to the police department. And also Scientology donates a bunch of money to the police department, especially in Los Angeles. Man, they give so much money to the police department. It's wild. And then number 2, I'm sharing this with you because there's a criminal trial going on right now that is not getting enough attention on social media. Actor and Scientologist Danny Masterson is on trial in Los Angeles on charges of raping multiple women, probably the Scientology community keeping it hush-hush. 3, first, let me explain how Scientologists are controlled. Scientology's policies, written by founder L. Ron Hubbard, can never be altered and must be interpreted literally, allowing this criminal org to control members and insulate itself from bad PR, which is like what they were saying in the video, which is what they're doing now. Not allowing social media sites to even see that what is going on, not talking about it on the mainstream media, because it's bad PR for Scientology. Because these women did come out to the people in Scientology, like higher ups, and they told these women to stay quiet and not say anything. And then when these women finally got out, they actually figured out that what happened to them was what happened, the SA, and having to deal with that now. And that's because they didn't want bad PR, because Danny is, a very high up guy. So number 4, these policies govern every single part of a Scientologist's life. Every Scientologist follows Scientology policies to a T. There is no choice in Scientology, and you'll learn why in this thread. Most of the women who have credibly accused Danny of of R Word were Scientologists and reported it to the top ethics officials in Scientology and a few trusted friends. Everything shared with these 5 officials is always reported to Scientology's leader, David Miscavige. These women did this in the immediate aftermath of when they were R-worded. 7, in Scientology, you are forbidden from ever reporting a fellow Scientologist to law enforcement, and you aren't allowed to sue Scientologists unless Scientology officials first approve it. Talk about a cult, right? I think it sounds like a cult. The reason for this Scientology law is simple. Scientology is a totalitarian cult, and like all other totalitarian states, any justice is handled within. Scientology and Scientologists believe they are above the law outside of Scientology law. Definitely cult-like. Scientologists refer to non-Scientologists as WOGs. The law that non-Scientologists follow are known as WOG law. Again, Scientologists believe that WOG law is always beneath Scientology law, even though Danny is having to deal with the law right now. And if he ends up going to jail for a really long time, which I hope he does, then like you're going to have Scientology in there, but you're under WOG law. Loser. As Scientologists, you are taught that WOGs are ignorant, misinformed, or evil. Well, he's about to live with a lot of them. There are fewer than 25,000 Scientologists worldwide, meaning Scientologists believe over 7 billion people are ignorant and misinformed, and that some of them, especially psychiatrists, are evil. Well, that's like Christian religion and Catholic religion. They think theirs is right and everyone else's is wrong. You know, it's like that one comedian guy said, you know, me being an atheist and you being a Christian just means that we both believe in like 4,999 gods don't exist the same and only one disagree with. So, yeah. What a cult, exactly. Yeah, Kelly, we watched all of Leah's shows Aftermath, and despite the numerous threats from Scientology for lawsuits, she won Emmys. Exactly. Yeah, I saw all the stuff that she did, her shows, all of her interviews that she's done. I really dive deep into a lot of this. I wish I could find that video of these kids who like secretly went in there. I wonder if like maybe while I play the next video, I'll look for it and see if I can find it. 11 Scientologists believe that the body you're living in now is just a vessel and that we live innumerable lives. Therefore, they think they can protect their eternity by helping to protect Scientology. So that Scientology is the keeper of their eternal lives, and this is just their vessel. We're just a vessel of it. Scientology has a guiding dynamic, the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. Among those dynamics, Scientology is the most important dynamic to protect. Therefore, Scientologists will protect Scientology at all costs. Yeah, sounds like worker ants. Protecting the queen at all costs. Or like worker bees. The hive mentality is exactly what it is. Yeah, exactly. Religion is a hell of a drug. Yeah, me too. I love her to death. Leah Remedy is awesome. So 13 policy permits Scientologists to do horrific things to protect Scientology and make Scientologists unreliable witnesses. It allows Scientologists to reject WOG law and lie to law enforcement. It allows the Scientologists to commit perjury to protect Scientology. See, that should be admissible in the court right there, just knowing that. I hate that the court is trying to dismiss a lot of Scientology aspects in the case. I believe it's the defense is trying to keep it out to protect Scientology, but the judge allowed a little bit in there because there is a lot of things that have to do with Scientology in these cases because these women were in there and they had to reach out to Scientologists who wouldn't let them do anything and let them, you know, talk about their essay with Danny. So this needs to be also known in there too. Like they're allowed to lie to protect the religion itself. So Applebee's has worker bees, but it's not the bee's knees. So what happens if you go to law enforcement about another Scientologist? Your life, as you know it, for them at least, will be over. Scientologists who go against Scientology law and go to law enforcement are incredibly brave because they know the consequences are devastating. You will be declared a suppressive person, which means that no Scientologist in good standing could ever have anything to do with you again. You will be considered fair game. This is like their attacks that they do on people. Scientologists will have permission to do whatever they have to do to destroy your life. You know, spying, watching you, stalking you, all those things that we would see on their shows, on our show. People's stories. In an instant, you will lose your entire family, job if you work for Scientologists, and your friends. You will lose everything because you dared to stand up for yourself against Scientology. Being declared a suppressive person and having Scientologists disconnect from you isn't a situation where some people will still keep you in their life. Scientologists live in a totalitarian state, so they will follow orders strictly. You will lose everything and everyone. Woo! Like no leeway, no give right there. That's just, you know, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I bet people that even want to leave are too afraid to leave because they're afraid to, you know, their families. I mean, look at Danny and his sister and brother right now in the case. Like their dad, you know, got kicked out and they're still all together and they refuse to talk to their dad because they're in Scientology. So, right, I know. That's why I was like, we need to get like, what's that one? The flying spaghetti monster and stuff. We need to get those. Like, I know that like Satanism is probably a protected religion now. And Satanism is pretty good as long as you just don't delve like too deep into like the actual real worshipers, you know. But the laws and stuff in there itself are great. The Satanism has protections against bodily autonomy. So you can actually, if you are a declared Satanist, you can get an abortion because of religion. So, which is kind of cool. For example, if you own a small business and are declared a suppressive person in the middle of the day, your employees will quit immediately. Your customers will immediately cancel their orders. That's crazy. And how does Scientology ensure that Scientologists cut off all contacts with someone who has been declared an SP? They accomplish this through an internal intelligence system which conducts interrogations and confessionals and monitors the behavior of every Scientologist. Oof. That's so horrible. Yeah, it's okay. Go start. We won't have a God. I used to say that all the time. Not today, Satan. All right. If you're told that if you report an R word to law enforcement, you will lose your parents, siblings, significant others, job, and all your friends, everything you've ever known. What would that scare you enough that you might reconsider going to the police? Absolutely. Most people would be too frightened to move forward if the cost of reporting the R word meant their entire life from their family to their livelihood would disappear overnight. Another thing that stops Scientologists from coming forward with their allegations is a key teaching in Scientology that everything happens in your life is your fault. Ooh, that blaming shit. That's disgusting. Scientologists refer to this as pulling it in. Even gave it its own word. Interesting. If you get rear-ended, you'll be asked, what did you do to pull that in? Everything is your fault because they never want anything to be blamed on Scientology. However, if something good happens to you, you aren't given credit. Scientology gets the credit. I mean, that's how Christians are too. That's exactly the same as the Christian religion. If something bad happens to you, it's Satan, it's demons coming into your life and ruining things and making it worse. But if something really good happens, it's a blessing from God. You didn't do it yourself. God did it for you. It's God's work. It's his plan, you know. But something bad, it's like, oh, demons are out to get me. So it's the same as Christian religion. Imagine, which probably makes you think that Christian religion is probably a cult too. Same, you know, with all the rest of them. So imagine you're a 14-year-old girl and a man has argued you. When you share this news with Scientology, you're asked what you did wrong, and in some cases made to make amends to your abuser, and you will not be allowed to report this crime to civil authorities. Then the process of covering up the crime commences. The system is set up to cause paranoia and fear and encourage silence from its victims. There it is right there. Fear, the word that makes everybody bow down and do what they want for centuries. It's crazy. For the rich, paying taxes is a choice. For the working poor, hourly wages are stolen, and that's called paying taxes. And later you may beg for some of it back, right? You better slow down on the Kool-Aid. And then the process of covering up the crime commences. The system is, okay, we just read that. One of the survivors of Danny's predation, Jane Doe number 1, a former Scientologist, finally went to the police in 2004 after she reported that Danny brutally AR'd her internally to Scientologist ethics department. She was threatened and ordered to remain silent. See, even like the police department's like, oh, okay, they've got it covered. So because they give them so much money, so they're allowed to get away with whatever they want. After she told Julian Swartz, David Miscavige's chief's enforcer and a man who oversees the most sensitive cases in Scientology, including many celebrities, that she went to law enforcement. Jane Doe number 1 had her life systematically destroyed by Scientology. In reaction to her telling him that she went to law enforcement about Danny, Julian Swartz told Jane Doe, "You're fucked. You're totally fucked." Scientology officials told Jane Doe number 1 and Jane Doe number 3 that they could never use the word R word in internal Scientology reports when describing what Danny did to them. So they weren't even allowed to use the R word about it, but even though he did. So one of the reasons I want everyone to pay attention to this trial is because Danny's defense attorney, Philip Cohen, is doing everything he can to strip the involvement of Scientology from this trial. Scientology policies and the actions of Scientology's top officials should mean that Scientology should be a co-defendant in this trial. Absolutely 100% agree. Everything that has happened in this case is largely due to Scientology's criminal policies. I mean, I couldn't even agree more. So that is insanely true. Okay, so here's some more. Scientology has obstructed justice in covering up Danny's crimes. And his case is not the only time they've done this. Scientology has covered up at least hundreds of similar crimes involving violence. Exactly. Yeah, she was one of the people that brought up the where is Shelley Miscavige, which I just want you all to know. I'm pretty sure Shelley is out here with me in my town out here. I could probably show you guys that if you're interested in hearing about that. But I really honestly think that she's out here in the compound. Honestly, truly do. I can show you if you're interested. Anyway, so women, Danny R. Word, have shown an incredible level of courage. They went against police, everything. They were brainwashed into believing and went to police. Their courage has not only meant that Danny gets held accountable, but they've exposed more criminality in Scientology. Off to work, Yona. Okay, have a good night. Eat more pizza. We'll see you later on tonight on your show. You guys go check him out. I believe it's at 7:30 Pacific time is Yona's show tonight. So go and check that out. I'll be over there watching before Warren's show tonight later on after that. So go and check out Yona tonight. Let's see. These women have spoken out in great danger to themselves and their families since they went to law enforcement and went public with their stories. They've been harassed by Scientology PLs relentlessly, funded with tax-exempt funds. Ooh, girl, get it. If you care about combating Scientology and you're frustrated that Scientology has never been truly held accountable for its crimes, please pay attention to this trial, tweet about it, post all your socials. And while some media outlets have covered this trial, it's time for more reporters to give it the attention it deserves. It's not about Hollywood celebrity. It's about a multi-billion-dollar cult does to cover up exactly S crimes, which was another really cool, interesting thing that this is an invitation to go to party in Clearwater. No, no. Maybe. What I thought was really, really interesting about our page 2 was this first part right here. what she has is this picture right here too. Obviously local politics in the area. So if you believe Scientology is an evil criminal cult, then kick Mitch O'Farrell out of office. So he's a congressperson for the 13th district in California, which is LA area. And this is obviously a picture of, in this photo on the left, you have Scientology exec Shane Woodruff right here, who was Leah Remini says it was her handler when she was a Scientologist. And then the LA City Councilman Mitch O'Farrell. And so she's wanting people to vote him out of office, it looks like. See, Mitch O'Farrell presented a laudatory proclamation to Scientology in 2014. He did this many years after reporting, and first-person accounts made clear that Scientology is a dangerous cult. Here they are together in 2018, presenting another proclamation to Scientology executive John Goodwin. This was again after years of reporting, exposing Scientology, and after going clear book documentary, and after 2 years after my series on A&E premiered. She just goes off on this Mitch O'Farrell guy and how bought he is from, this guy is from Scientology, obviously, because Scientology has so much money that they're able to pay, and buy out a lot of these politicians and, like police organizations and sheriff's departments and shit like that. So definitely, if you're in the LA area in District 13, I believe was what she was saying, try to get this guy out. Definitely. I mean, I don't see any, the solution of it. But yeah, it says Danny Masterson's defense attorney brought up this thread in the court that morning on November 2nd, said that the thread makes it difficult to get a fair trial. Ridiculous, but glad the judge didn't fall for it, with Leah Remini's tweets about it, which is great. So then week 1 and week 2 have already gone or have already started and passed on the trial. So the only people that I am seeing even talk about what's going on there is this Law and Crime. There's definitely not much other people even talking about it, and it's really hard to find. So I figured we can talk. Is this it? Yeah, they look so much alike, the two videos, so it was hard to tell which one was week 1 and which one was week 2. Signs, good to see you. Yeah, I know. Sorry, I read your comment and I didn't even realize it was you. Good to see you, Signs. Good to see you, person I'm not allowed to put up. CNN didn't report a thing about it. Exactly, Kelly. That's exactly what I'm saying, is the only people I'm able to find about it is Law and Crime, which I mean, I just know about their YouTube channel. I don't even know if they're on actual TV or anything, but yeah, no, they're definitely keeping it hush hush. You could tell that Scientology really is in the Hollywood elites and stuff, because the mainstream media is not even barely talking about it. So tax exempt status needs to be pulled from all religions, especially property and income. When countries allow tax-free property, all religions bought land and buildings. Yeah. It's turned into a capitalistic investment, asset owning, things like that, rich elitist. I mean, even that one guy who was like, I need a second private jet because I can't be on regular airplanes because it's full of demons. Like, who the fuck do you think we are? Like, we're demons. But then I remember, like, oh yeah, everything that's bad to them is a demon. So yeah, it's gross. But yeah, I fully agree with that. We need to really start taxing religions. I don't understand why we don't. It really pisses me off that we don't.
May appear in court on your behalf without you present.
Yes, Your Honor.
We go over the top 3 moments from week 1 of actor Danny Masterson's rape trial. Journalist Tony Ortega comes back on to explain it all. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Week one of actor Danny Masterson's rape trial out in Los Angeles is finished up. The That 70s Show star is facing charges of forcibly raping 3 women. This allegedly happened between 2001 and 2003 when these women in Masterson were all members of the Church of Scientology. And he faces a lengthy prison sentence if convicted, up to 45 years, perhaps life in prison. And there is a lot that has happened in week one, from opening statements to witness testimony. So to break down those top 3 moments from week one, I'm joined right now by someone who is inside that courtroom, journalist Tony Ortega. And Tony has been following this case. He's been a frequent contributor here on the Sidebar podcast, on the Danny Masterson story. He is the founder of the Underground Bunker, where he writes about Scientology issues. You can find him at tonyortega.substack.com. And he is currently outside that courtroom right now. As we always like to see Tony, he's right on the scene. Tony, good to see you once again.
Thanks for having me back, Jesse. Yeah, I'm dealing with some sunlight and shadows, doing the best I can here.
You've been doing more than the best. I'll tell you, I know I put you in a tough position to go through the top 3 moments, but I think we have to start with the testimony of Jane Doe 1, right? I think that could have been one of the top moments, if you care to elaborate on why that might have been.
Well, absolutely. I mean, she was describing just a harrowing experience, just really brutal, forcible rape, and the details, of course, are just awful. And she broke down numerous times. There were times when the judge had to literally like stop everything, take a recess. It was very upsetting for her. And I thought that, you know, she came across as credible, and it was tough for her to say certain things, but she has these vivid memories. While at the time she's describing having felt suspiciously intoxicated after this one drink at his house, and she's fighting to stay conscious. And some things are fuzzy, but let me tell you, she spelled out a really, really awful scene for this jury.
And we want to take a moment right now and thank our good friends at the Commercial Break Comedy Podcast. Have you ever asked yourself these very important questions like, what? And correct me if I'm wrong, not only sexually assaulted her, she tried to fight him back to no avail. And then afterwards, she tried to report it to Scientology and was completely pressured to remain silent.
Right. That he raped her, that she fought back in numerous ways. At one point, she says he pulled a gun out of a drawer next to the bed. And then, she made her way and then immediately reported it to the Church of Scientology. That's the other thing we're learning, is just how much Scientology was in control of these lives, and how Scientology tried to convince her not to go to the police. At one point, they finally allowed her permission to sue him, but still, don't go to the police. And she really had to defy them. And then the other testimony that was amazing last week is she described being pressured by the church to sign an agreement and accept $400,000 from Danny so that she would never talk about this event ever again. It was just really something.
Hush money. She was offered hush money to not say anything. It's like Disney. Disney does the same fucking shit. It's so gross. Yeah, they don't pay into Social Security yet receive the benefits. No, absolutely. I did an article a couple of months ago here on here where there was like a church, like it was like a religious school, a church school. So it was like on a church grounds, not being taxed. And they were wanting the state tax money to pay for the school. But they don't pay any taxes at all themselves. And so, it's crazy. Like how they're like, well, we need, people's tax money to help benefit and make us just as good as everyone else. But we don't get to pay taxes because we're a religion. Like, fuck you. No, you should start paying taxes. I still don't understand the whole point of it. So I know, right? He's just like, just saying the R word, like full on. I know, it's crazy. Yeah, it's about power. Absolutely. I agree. It definitely is.
When she's testifying, and I kind of saw this in the Harvey Weinstein trial when I was in that courtroom watching these victims testify against Weinstein, I was watching the jury intently. What was the jury doing, to the best that you could see, while she was testifying?
When Deputy DA Mueller was leading her through that testimony, the jury looked really rapt. I mean, they were paying attention to every word. And I don't want to read too much into this, Jesse, but during cross-examination, Philip Cohen is doing his best. He's got a different style, but I noticed the jurors weren't looking at him. And I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. They might have just been sort of thinking about it, but very different style than DA Mueller.
Let's go into that. So the top 2 moment, I think, would have to be the defense's cross-examination of Jane Doe 1, right? I mean, what stood out to you there?
Well, it was interesting to me because, in the run up to this case, of course, the thing that's brought up the most is how long it's taken to get here. That these allegations are from 2001 to 2003. A new LAPD investigation hasn't started until 2016. The women say it's because they feared Scientology. So there's been a lot of talk, and motions and stuff about the Scientology component, the policies, and this delay. But, defense attorney Cohen said, no, I'm not even going there. I don't care about the delay. All he cares about is that what she's testifying to now is different than what was in a 2004 LAPD report. And what struck me was he's basically put the entire defense on that one 2004 report. But on redirect, we learned that there's a 2003 report she wrote for the church, which is more consistent with what she's saying today, raising and the whole time the prosecution side have been raising questions, not about what she said for the 2004 for the LAPD, but what the LAPD wrote down. So I thought it was a little risky on the defense's side to just put everything on that 2004 report when it's come into question.
And just to clarify, are you suggesting that what the 2004 report said was the words of the LAPD that maybe were mistaken? They had a misinterpretation of what she said? Or was it that her story changed, maybe because of pressure from Scientology, that's why we're seeing even a discrepancy between 2004 and 2003?
Both, Jesse. That she's testifying that she held back certain things from the LAPD because she's a Scientologist. She worried about harming David. She specifically said harming David Miscavige, a leader of the church. So she held things back. But also with a problem, she said at one point the detective didn't seem to understand she was speaking English.
It's more of like a MMT type thing. You like when they tell you you're paying into Social Security, you're just paying into that debt clock that you see in New York to lower that debt clock. And then when the law runs up and they have to change it to a different, or every year they can change how much people are getting in Social Security, that's how much the government puts into the treasury, or says the treasury needs to put out to Social Security benefits. So it's not like technically, you're paying, yes, but you're not paying into it, because there's never really a vault of all the Social Security money being held until you're of that age. So that's why, because you don't really get all of it when you like, a lot of people now are not getting as much as they paid into when they were younger in those times, is because that's just the law has changed. You don't get as much now because that's what money is going into it. It's been defunded itself. So that's why it's just like an MMT type thing.
This is a native English speaker. I mean, there's something very strange about that report. And, and that's not too unusual that the LAPD might not have the most accurate report, but to bank the entire defense on it, I just thought that was a risky move for Cohen.
And you talk about the defense's moves here. I think the top third moment here is also, you had mentioned to me that the defense was moving for a mistrial, right? Because of all the Scientology related matters that were coming up. Can you talk about that?
In the first week, Philip Cohen made 2 motions for mistrial, both based on the Scientology content. He wants to keep all Scientology content out. I understand. That makes sense from a defense perspective. But it's really hard to understand what these women went through without understanding their Scientology background and some of the things the Church of Scientology did. So that, back on October 4th, Judge Olmedo made a major ruling. It was very lengthy, very well thought out, lots of case law, explaining why she's allowing a limited amount of testimony about Scientology policies. And both sides have kind of fought their way through that.
That's not even fair, though, that they're trying to keep out Scientology, because like he said, he's completely right. A lot of this has to do with the problems in Scientology and why this stuff didn't get out, and, the laws that they have to create in there to protect people. So they couldn't do anything. Like, it was a cult, and it has to be at least brought up. I'm hoping that with the judge at least allowing a little bit of this, that something is going to happen, that some kind of change is going to happen.
Judge Olmedo admonished the prosecution for maybe entering too much Scientology too quickly. But since then, she's allowed a certain amount. And Cohen just feels that that's really prejudicial to his client. He made a motion for a mistrial, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon and Thursday morning, both denied. But that was a big moment in the courtroom.
Real quick, before I have to ask you, is anybody from Scientology there?
Well, we had a Scientologist witness today. That was the entire, Danny Masterson is a Scientologist. His whole family are Scientologists. They're in the courtroom. And we had a witness today who was a friend of Jane Doe One's, who testified that he's become more strongly a Scientologist just in the last couple of years. And I reported earlier, he's the son of 2 of the biggest donors in the Church of Scientology. They're $10 million donors. And he came in today, fascinating moment, because he'd been recorded in 2017 basically corroborating some things Jane Doe 1 had told him back in 2003. And he was kind of stuck. He kind of pushed back at the prosecution as they asked him about what was in that recording, but they got through it. But then he said something bizarre that last week on Friday or something, a DA investigator had approached him in the hallway and asked him a question, and he suddenly remembers he was on that 2003 Florida trip with Jane Doe 1.
You mean an investigator for the DA's office?
No, an investigator from Masterson that a private eye working for the defense had approached this Scientologist in the hallway, either Thursday or Friday, I think Friday afternoon, and had asked him a question which suddenly made him remember for the first time in 18 years that he was on that Florida trip with the rest of them. Now, we had a cousin come on later today, this morning, who said, no way, he wasn't on that trip with us. But just a bizarre moment that this, and then there was some real arguing between the two sides with the jury out of the room. Cohen did not like that the DA had made it sound like it was improper for this private investigator to be approaching a witness in the hallway of the courtroom. And Cohen's like, no, that's not improper. Both sides can do it. But I described it on Twitter as this trial's first Pentangeli brother moment, if you remember from The Godfather.
Oh, I do. I hope it doesn't end up in a bathtub. I mean, that's the, you know.
Instead of seeing the brother from Italy, this witness saw the private investigator from Danny Masterson and suddenly had a revelation.
So there's the week 1. I also have week 2 as well. We can watch that really quick. Kind of see what happened on week 2 in the trial. Give a little bit more information than what happened in a hallway.
It's a recap of week 2 in Danny Masterson's. I should note that if he's convicted, he faces a lengthy prison sentence because he could face up to 45 years to life in prison. That's what we're talking about here. So we want to talk about week 2 and some of the top moments. You know who I'm bringing in. I'm bringing in journalist Tony Ortega, who's not only been following this case and has been a frequent contributor on the Danny Masterson story here on Sidebar, but he is actually in Los Angeles. He's outside the courthouse. He has been inside that courtroom as proceedings have been underway. Now, Tony is the founder of the Underground Bunker, where he writes about Scientology-related issues. You can find him at tonyortega.substack.com. Tony, good to see you once again.
Jesse, thanks for having me on.
Let's go through it. So week 2 was very interesting. I think we should start with the testimony of Jane Doe 3. Obviously, one of the accusers, very important. What can you tell us about her testimony?
Right. So if Jane Doe 1 was the sort of center of week 1, then Jane Doe 3, who followed her, was really the kind of highlight of this week. And I can tell you that I've seen these women before at the preliminary hearing, and I thought that actually Tom Mesereau did a better job with Jane Doe 3 a year ago than Philip Cohen did. I thought Jane Doe.
Let's just be clear. That was Danny Masterson's attorney.
Not only to describe what she did was, besides describing these 2 terrible events, the actual rape allegation and also another event, just really horrible details that, you know, those of us who know the case were familiar with. I was impressed how much other material she brought in simply about what it was like to be his girlfriend. See, that's what makes Jane Doe 3 different, Jesse, is that she was actually in a 6-year relationship with Masterson. The other 2 women were not. And of course, that makes things a little more complicated. But I thought that gave her the opportunity to describe this unloving relationship with a man who just demanded sex when he wanted it and didn't care if she was prepared or not. Really portrayed a very, very sad situation.
A couple of things. First of all, I want to let everybody know that yes, Tony's outside right now. So you hear the you hear the barking dog, you hear a soccer team playing. It is what it is, folks. This is what we have to deal with. But anyway, maybe this dog actually wants to come up.
And when she was asked about the stalking and harassment she's alleging also in the civil lawsuit against Church of Scientology, and she just mentioned that she and her husband and her children, she believes, have been targeted by this campaign of harassment. She just started crying and trembling. She said she couldn't breathe. I mean, she just got into a full-blown panic attack. And the judge had to stop proceedings, have the jury leave. It took a while for her to gather herself, seemed very genuine. She has made it clear several times during her testimony that the thing she's really terrified of and why she maybe hasn't always said all the details in every interview she's given is she's terrified of what Scientology is going to do to her. So that came through loud and clear. And it, like I said, it did hold up things for a little while, but then they got going again.
Because we all know that Scientology is not supposed to be the focus of this case, but it can come in a limited context. Did she say what did she say about the church?
She called it a criminal enterprise. And see, Jesse, this was during cross. I mean, she took a couple of opportunities to really make this point. She called Scientology a criminal enterprise that was terrorizing them. She has said multiple times that it's continuing up to in fact, on direct testimony, when Deputy DA Mueller asked her when this harassment had been going on and up to what point, she literally said today. implying that something had happened that day, with either private investigators or hacking. I've written about this. I interviewed her husband years ago about, they claimed that 2 of their dogs were killed, and they believed that Church of Scientology was behind it. So again, she got to introduce that a couple times this week, including during cross-examination.
And just sticking with Jane Doe 3 for a second, my understanding is that her husband may now testify too.
Her husband testified this morning.
This right here is really like what got me with this whole story, and this case right here is the woman's husband and what he has to say.
I am using his name because he's never asked me for anonymity, and he's a famous person. He is the Mars Volta rocker, Cedric Bixler Zavala. And he came in today to talk about what it was like to learn from his wife that she claimed, 10 years earlier, she'd been assaulted by Masterson. And that, she has said in testimony that because of her involvement in Scientology, she wanted to protect Masterson to a certain extent. And, it's their testimony that Cedric was the first one to tell her, you were raped. And that convinced her to go to law enforcement at that point.
Wait, you mean she didn't initially understand it to be that?
Her testimony is that she knew something, it shouldn't have happened, but it happened. And she went to the church initially. I think she did say rape when she went to the church, and the church said, don't use that word. We don't use that word here. So she hadn't been using that word, but then, Cedric told her after she described it, you were raped. And she then went to law enforcement.
It's incredible testimony. I mean, again,
that's just so sad. It's so sad what happened to her, and the fact that she had to find out what it was later because she was so brainwashed into thinking it's something completely different. Oh man, I couldn't even imagine. This is why, I believe a lot of the women when they come to this kind of stuff, because it's just so upsetting.
And Tony, you're there. It's incredible you get a view to see this. I do want to move over from Jane Doe 3's testimony. I want to go back actually to Jane Doe 1's testimony, because my understanding also is that a member of law enforcement testified. And I think that was a big moment from this week as well, right?
It's been very interesting because one of the things the defense has tried to do in her testimony is to say that the things she's testifying to now were not in a 2004 report when she first went to the LAPD. And I mean, that's the impression that Defense Attorney Cohen really gave last week. Well, this week, the desk sergeant who actually took that report came in to testify with a copy of his report, and Deputy DA Mueller carefully went over it with him. And I think it was stunning how much it backs up what she is saying today. Now, I think the reason it was so stunning was, again, because Cohen had basically given everyone the sense that it wasn't corroborating, but it very much was. That was direct testimony. Then on cross today, Cohen then went over with the policeman some things that are different from what she's saying today, a few things. And so that's something that the DA then handled by basically questioning the policeman's reporting. And that was the interesting moment today, was that the DA was in a position to question whether a police officer had done a thorough enough job on a report. Cohen said something about that. He said that to the judge, that this was really concerning to him. And the judge said, look, sloppy report writing is something we hear from both sides all the time. So she didn't think that there was something that really concerned her about that. So that's interesting. I mean, this officer, I feel like, really corroborated a lot of what Jane Doe 1 said, but there were things that were not in his report. And the question then is, why not? And that question was kind of left hanging in the air. And I believe we're now going to be, the next witness will be another LAPD detective who also followed up on the case.
So I'll give you about,
Man, that's insane. Like the whole situation and what's happening and all of that. I can't believe like the fact that the Scientology like covers it up this much, and like they're trying to block it from even getting into the case, and then these girls' stories. So Kelly was saying something earlier about Kelly Miscavige, and I always know, like, people always talk about how they think that, she's missing and where she could be. And so I was saying, like, she could be possibly living right around where I live, in the same mountain area. So here's California, here's Southern California, there's Los Angeles down here. So if you go over here, there's San Bernardino. Los Angeles is over here. You come to San Bernardino, there's this mountain range right here next to this major freeway. And so right here in this mountain area, okay, there's a couple of lakes, obviously, as you could see. There's Lake Arrowhead, there's Crestline. So if you go here to Crestline, there's this main road right here that goes all the way out to pretty much the only street light in our entire mountain, pretty much, is like right here in this little area. And so right here in this, no, cat, don't start climbing on shit. So if you look right in this little area, there's this little V spot right here. And right here in this little V spot, cat, what the living hell is wrong with you? This pretty much this whole, ow, fucker. This whole section is owned by the Scientology people. And so even right here, if you notice, it says search of spiritual technology. Corporate office now open. So funny. But this area is extremely gated off. There's, ow, you fucker, stop biting me. What the hell is your problem? How does that feel? Jesus. In this whole area, if you look, okay, in this whole area, there's like this whole mountain range of things in this area. But if you go in closer, you'll see there's actually buildings in here. So you'll notice like right here, there's a house. Right here's another house. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. And then if you go over here, you'll see there's this one right here. And those are all owned. This whole entire section like is owned by Scientology. And there's always like right here when we go down these streets, because like this is a main highway right here, but this is a side road that you can go on. And the streets are really small. It's like one road, one street road, you know, like two ways, but one road. But there's always somebody standing outside right here. So I believe that this is like the security office. And so right across the street from the security office where this little pinpoint is the gate to get into here. But you can't get into here because this whole thing is just completely gated off. And I believe that she is living in this compound right here in this area because it's huge. It looks like a mansion with multiple different houses that are attached and around it. She could be very well guarded. It's very far from town. I mean, if you look right here, you can even see like right here would be like right where it's at in this little area. And so you'd have to, only way to get off this mountain is to go over here and then go all the way down right here. And then that's it. Or you take from this little area right here and you take this road across and then you go down all this windy road. So there's like pretty much two main exits into the city in this area. So it's pretty much, you know, away from city, away from people, away from everything. And it's, you know, see, look there. I mean, if you look right here, there's city down here and this is all mountains up here. So she would definitely have to figure, I mean, she'd be right here in this little section, in this little area right here. So she would have to figure out a way to get out of there, you know, without having to literally travel down an entire mountain. I mean, even to get out the other way, look, if you look, that's even further the other way. I mean, there's an entire town she would have to go through, you know, more mountains and then the desert until she would hit desert and then she would hit a city out there. So she's definitely pretty secluded out in this area, in this region, to where she can't leave. And I honestly, truly think, even Leah Remini said in a video that I watched one time that she honestly thinks that this is where they are. There was an episode that she did on their show where they took video of them going by it. So you can kind of see. And I knew exactly when they went by it that this was like, you know, this was that area. So that's the house I think that she lives in. I always see this little thing right here, which is, it almost looks like its own little like round room off by itself, like a little, you know, area to kind of read a book and stuff. But this house is humongous. And then if you look across the street, see if you look down, like there's the whole mountain range down to the city down in that area. So that's like the mountain range to get down. But if you look right here, there's that house across the street I was telling you about. And there's always people standing outside of this house. There's always, you know, cars. There's always people there. Somebody standing outside watching guard. And see, that's like how to get into this place is like through this like security guarded, gated community that you can't even get into. And you try to, you know, try to drive by and try to see some stuff, but it's really hard to see. See, there's like the entrance. It's gated up right there. And then there's a security guard that's always there. I'm actually shocked that there's, oh, of course, you're going to take me out on the highway when I want to go back up here to this road. God damn it. Take me back here. Thank you, dude. Oh my gosh, it took me so far away from it. And then now I'm going the opposite way. But yeah, as you can tell, it just really honestly, truly looks like that she could possibly live there. You guys are all getting like a nice little view of my house. Or I mean, not my house, but my town. I'm surprised they allow Google to drive and film there. I mean, you can. I've recorded like when I've driven by there. My husband and I have like stopped right here in this little spot and like try to videotape and try to, you know, see what we could inside of the windows. You can't really see much because they're so far away. But yeah, when we stopped right there and parked, there was some dude right here like looking at us, and he was talking into his little walkie-talkie thing. So don't they have a scrub team that would block out satellite views of their taxpayer funded properties like Cheney did for himself? Yeah, right. I wish. No, you can't. I mean, I guess they probably could, but I literally have driven by this place and this is exactly what it is. This is their area. They own it. You cannot get in here like what so fucking ever. I mean, so I'm trying to get into the main road over here so you all can see that there's like another area because they own the whole corner of it. So here we go, the corner. Okay. And they own all the way up to the corner, like up to this corner right here. So that where we saw was down this road, down this way is that other entrance. But if you go down this way, you'll see here's another entrance because there's that road to go up to them. And so they just own this whole corner of this area. But right here is what they have back here behind this gated off area is the gas tanks. I don't know if you've ever known any rich people, but a lot of rich people, when they own huge compounds, they have these huge tankers that are just filled with gas, like, you know, for your car. And if you buy it in big bulks like that, you get it for a lot cheaper. So like I remember back in the day, my this girl that I knew, her parents were really rich. And so she would get her gas in the backyard, and their parents were saying that they were paying like 35 cents a gallon for the gas because they were buying it in bulk. So I think that there's like 2 of those in the back there. And I think those are for gas for people to fill up their cars. But this is a whole other area. You can't even go up this road into this driveway. You're not even allowed to. And then there's like this other little side road right here. And if you look over here too, see, they just have everything. Oh, there you go. There you go. Signs. There's the blocking for you. They did it. They fucking did it. You're not allowed to see shit. See, these sons of bitches. I should have watched and looked this up beforehand. I cannot believe that. What does she do? What do you think Shelly does all day long? I have no idea. I mean, probably a lot of people don't even know what she looks like. So I'm pretty sure she probably goes into town, into Lake Arrowhead, and does some shopping and, you know, maybe does walks on the lake or sits at home all day and reads books. I don't know, but I honestly think that she's up here in this area. I can't believe that it's blocked like that. For what? I mean, there's this gate here. I mean, you could see the gate right there. So everything is already blocked as it is. I don't know why they had to block it like that. But yeah, they own that whole goddamn corner. Can't even get up in there. See, they've got it all gated off to where you can't get in there. Not allowed to touch this whole area. And see, I'm up in like this part of it. They own a huge swath of land over here. It's absolutely enormous how much they own. I mean, see, they even own back here in this part as well, because that's all gated off. They own a huge, big old part of it. And see, if you look, no, I just want to bring this up. How do I go back to this thing? Come on. I don't know how to work this damn thing. Yeah, I mean, I was all the way up in this area. So I mean, there's the entrance that we were talking about right there. So they must own from all of this to like all of right here, just this whole section, and then this little house right here in this area. But they own this whole corner, this whole triangle piece. Yeah, exactly. Enjoying their tax-free status with all this land. They probably have like the biggest, they own the biggest part of land out of everybody on this damn mountain. Maybe the high school might be a little bit bigger than it, but I mean, yeah. As you can tell, I don't live on the grid. These are the roads in my town. There's no squares, no left, east, west, all of that. These are the roads to get around on my town. When I say I live in a fucking mountain community, I don't lie. It's crazy. Yeah, is that the road they drove on when they were looking for Shelly in the aftermath and the security guys at the gate hassled them? Yes, that's exactly it. This is where it took place. Was right there, right next to my town. So that's exactly where they went. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, because that's the whole running rumor in town as well. Like out here in this town, there's a lot of rumors of like things that used to happen up here. And that's one of them is this area is known as the Scientology area. And so when they try to go look for Shelly and stuff, I was like, I know that place. I've driven by it and it already has a reputation out here as it is. So I knew exactly where they were, and that's where they were. That's where they went. So